Spooky.
Ooh, spooky. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Currently for me, it is 5:41 p.m. For Derek, it is 6:41 p.m. We were really meaning to get this started at 6 p.m. But things just like ended up going that way. But what's really funny is that the last time that we were on call together was Christmas Eve of
Eh,
last year. And
yeah,
now we're together again on phone talking Hallows Eve. Like I don't know about you, but that's pretty interesting to think about that
yeah,
we happen to be doing these at these times on these dates. But
yeah.
tonight, a long awaited session is broiling. It is in the cauldron per se. Tonight, we are going to be going under what I would say is absolutely the heaviest album of the year. Not only that, but it is one of the boldest albums of the year lyrically because of how anti Christian and anti religious this album is. This is a 14-track Goliath, more than an hour's worth of just disgusting, heavy, down tuned, down tempo, blackened deathcore, and all in the name of God, quite ironically. Not in a good way, but in the name of God nonetheless. So we have none other than Derek Connolly, also Mr. Unholy Cannoli, from his over on his voice impressions and voice imitations channel. That's a whole other part of what he does as a polyphonic vocalist. But tonight, basically, not only are we digging under the skin of a record, but we're also exposing the dirty little secrets of one of the world's most famous books ever, that being many iterations continuously of the Bible, which I think is really, really interesting. And it's not every day that the context of an album for a death metal band directly plucks stories, narrative, everything from a book on that level, as far as importance, relevance in human history, just in general. So, how are you doing tonight, Derek?
Good, good. How are you?
I am ready to I'm ready to get this done, but I'm doing pretty good. Had a pretty productive day, pretty casual human errands, getting some grocery shopping done, getting the booze ready, getting the final preparations for tomorrow, for what we're going to be doing here at the house, cuz like I'm working a 10-hour shift, but I'm probably going to be doing it in the the Darko Oni pre-order package that should be arriving sometime tomorrow. So I'm gonna have a ski mask and everything. People are like, "Oh, what's your costume?" I'm like, I'm gonna be a freaking genty deathcore criminal dude. Like, might as well be a new member of No Face No Case or some shit. But yeah, like it should be fun, and it's really nice to be out here on the East Coast and to actually be enjoying Halloween instead of wishing that the temperatures were adept and fair, I guess, for even like having a chocolate bar outside. Because back home in Arizona, no way, dude. Nobody celebrates Halloween. Basically, the only Halloween celebrations that occur are in downtown, where like, all the frat kids and the college kids are just like in the skimpy little Halloween costumes getting trashed and then just making life miserable for everybody who happens to live in that same area. But that's also what I'm talking about specifically is a city called Tempe. And it's basically, I call a party city because it's where ASU is, which is actually one of the country's like most infamous schools. Like you think of Step Brothers or The Hangover, just those ridiculous, just like crazy. This is the end. That's another example. Like that level of party. That's basically what this city is, and it has its dirty little secrets. But that's not what we're talking about tonight, is it? No. Um, instead, we're talking
Yeah,
about
here in Florida, it's like it's hot 24/7, and the
yeah.
spookiest thing we dealt with was the hurricane, which was crazy. I had no
God,
power for a week. It
I can't
was
even imagine
and
that, dude.
like basically just imagine what it's like to have no power, no internet for a week. And that's what basically you went through. And funny enough, We got hit the same day our album came out.
Yeah,
So we were just
seriously.
like, literally, we couldn't even see everything that was going on. We were just like talking about how it's going to be after once our power's on. And it was like an experience because we basically we saw everything kind of like we were like in a different fucking world while everyone else still had internet and everything. So it was like,
Mhm.
and like gas stations, dude, that shit, like basically you had to like take out cash and there was no power. It was like a different world. It really made me appreciate like smaller shit more. I can definitely say that.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Like it's a fucked up way about going about it, but like once you're humbled per se by a natural
Yeah.
disaster, for me, like I think of back home in Arizona and I'm thinking, why do people live there? It's so hot. But then also I'm like thinking about people in Florida, Georgia, Louisiana, east, like southeastern Texas, all those major areas that are usually hit by hurricanes. And I'm like, why are you living there? Like there's almost a 75% chance every year that your shit's going to just get absolutely annihilated, or you'll lose a couple items, maybe a couple houses will get destroyed. And this, like, it's so funny because me and my roommate's mom, we were having this conversation the other day. The same exact conversation can be said or asked for anybody who's living in Tornado Alley, the Midwest. It's like, why are you living in a place where there's at least, it's pretty common that you like tornado sirens, and it was just like chilling on their balcony, chilling on their patio while their neighbor's house just gets vacuumed up. I'm like, what the fuck? Why are you people living out there? So like, what I'm trying to say is that conversation can be applied to any place that has extreme weather phenomenon. It's just more or less how the people approach it. But I swear, Florida folk, y'all are a different breed, man. Like I could never touch base down in Florida, man.
We fight them alligators, man. Then we like just we ride alligators in hurricanes while throwing oranges at people. It's something that is just common here. You wouldn't get it unless you're from Florida.
Right, exactly. And that's just the story of Florida, man. That's the story of Florida folk, man. It's really just bayou folk that happen to be a little bit more modernized, or it's just elder.
Like you see the people who are not from Florida, like with the hurricane, they're just like have so much, like they built so much stuff everywhere. Then everyone else is just like has a bottle of booze, like, huh?
Yeah, you're just like chuckling, chortling a little
Yeah,
bit.
but that was an experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, the album.
The album, and yeah, the kind of like actually just seriously talk about that. I don't know if you've had the chance to do any homework, check out any of our previous under the skin sessions per se, with the likes of Warm Shepherd, with the likes of the breathing process, really anybody in the Ignite the Church crew. No, I'm kidding. They don't really associate with that, but I hope one day we all can collectively do that. Basically the first half, the first question that we want to ask on Under the Skin is, let's go ahead and get a back of the book summary, right? For this album. Like, we know it's a pretty edgy album. We know it's anti.
Yeah.
So like what's going on? What's a general
So
summary?
the whole purpose of it is basically, instead of, because so many bands do like the whole anti-religious thing, but for me on a personal level, I don't think anyone is really like pissed off. Like you see so many bands with like burning churches, church shirts, and they're just like, the pentagrams and everything. And it's like, for me on a personal level, like I get it, but I feel like what would really do something so different is to basically use the Bible, okay? Because there's always, the Christians always like see themselves as pure good. And basically where I came up with this idea, unfortunately, was through religious trauma. And uh my family, constantly likes to say that metal and stuff is evil.
Mhm.
And so then I actually read their own book, highlighted all the verses that I disagreed with. Then I was like, explain this to me. So then you look up the verses Like, a good example, basically what is the one that I always use that doesn't make sense is like this one. So this is the one verse that basically it says, because they constantly like to say how they're so pure good. And just like in reality, the people that always try to claim they're pure good end up being the most evil.
Mm-hmm.
So with this album, it's basically trying to say that the reason why it's so evil is because it constantly you see it disguise itself as pure good, especially God. And with God basically likes to be, he's omnipresent, omnibenevolent, omni this, but it also says stuff that even Christians don't even read in the Bible, which is Psalms 137:9. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against rocks.
Right. And that's just one out of so many.
That's just one verse, but that one verse, like, you can because they constantly like to say that Halloween's evil, everything else is evil, witches are evil, gay people are evil, like just everything but themselves. And then you read this book and you're just like, what are you talking about? And then they say out of context.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, you can't really apply that in context. Like, those were such older times and all this other shit. And that like kind of brings me to my first question as someone who's embarking onto a similar path as yourself. And like, as I'm getting older and older, I wouldn't say that I experienced religious trauma when I was younger, but definitely religious obligation, right? So I was in one of those households that followed the Bible or tried to follow the Bible as much as possible. And if anything, we didn't attend church near the beginning of my life and in the first like 10 to 15 years of my life, more or less just because we didn't have the time. The field of work that my parents and my grandparents decided to start their life, like start a new life in, it kind of constricted the opportunity for us to go to church. But it was still nonetheless a situation to where the idea of being pagan, the idea of being anything other than Christian, really. So at least they isolated the Catholic, the Baptist, the Mormon, the Methodist, Lutheran, all that subgenre bullshit. Because Christianity is very prominent here in the United States. Like, that's probably the most prominent one. You think of a Bible Belt state, you think of Christian. Like,
funny enough, once we touch on it, father feticide is actually about the whole
Roe versus Wade.
Yeah, Roe versus Wade. And I noticed a lot of, bands don't like to talk about it. And I was like, when I first heard about that, I was
livid, man.
Yeah, I was so pissed because it's just like, and we were going to originally just do 8 songs, but then it's just, we were like, let's just add more songs. And, Nick was just kind of like, you get one song about kind of IA-ish kind of stuff. And I was like, okay, I got you. And we basically, once, we touch more on that song, you're going to like hear the very similarities and like what it basically means and everything.
Absolutely. And yeah, like kind of continuing upon it, like never religious trauma, but definitely that sense of religious obligation that always left a pit in my stomach. It always left me like anxious and stressed and even a little bit panicky, just how quick Christians and Western monotheists, because that's kind of how I generalize it, right? There's like Catholicism, there's Baptist, all that shit. I just generalize it as Western monotheism because it started with the Anglo-Saxons and moved its way out here. But always just that sense of just anything other than being a Christian, you're evil, you'll burn in hell. If you're gay, you'll burn in hell. Like all this, I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with you people? And these are my loved ones too. Like, absolutely. I think the worst example that in my lineage we've had to deal with so far is my father, like no names being disclosed because no one needs to know that. Not really. Essentially, my grandmother and my father forced my mom to depersonalize religiously and go from pagan to Christian just to be validated and honored into marrying my dad. Like shit like that just makes my skin crawl. It's like, what the fuck? And I remember
Yeah.
both parties saying this too, like throughout my younger life. Just, oh yeah, you're like, unfortunately, I was kind of forced to give up being a pagan and give up kind of the witchy vibe, or I was never allowed to show you any of the music I listened to. In other words, though I ended up just becoming a metalhead and a grunge punk, whatever you want to call it, on my own, my mom was already like deep into that and she was planning on raising me on that. But my grandma legitimately said, "You're not raising my grandkids on that evil bullshit." And after that, like, forced her to give up her religious beliefs, her cultural beliefs, really, her musical tastes. And like, that's how my mom was validated and welcomed into my family, like at the very beginning. And it's just
Wow.
so evil. Like,
Yeah, like that's like a reason why I touched on this subject is because there are one band that does it similar, of course, is Infant Annihilator. They do talk on the Catholic Church.
yes,
I kind of like when I listened to All Egg, I was like, it'd be so cool to like, because the Old Testament and the Bible is so fucked up.
yeah,
It'd be so cool to like have a band just have like an audio kind of horror book
yes.
to the like just the most fucked up shit possible.
And dude, guaranteed the reason that we are in this call right now is because not only did NITHEFUL essentially, not completely, but essentially become a DLC to what Infant Annihilator is, but with more Black and Deathcore roots. You know what I mean? So I'm
Yeah.
not saying you guys are just another Infant Annihilator, because that's not true. There's so much more going on. But like,
There's a lot of influence with this band. Like I said, it's like based around three bands I really like: Infant, Null Nothrock, and Full of Hell. Kind of and Sunno kind of influence in there too. Like Sunno is basically like the influence there is the end of Sacramentum, where it's just so slow
yeah,
and noisy that it's just like, what is going on?
what
And
is
it's
going
not for
on?
everybody, but it's supposed to make
It's
it's
supposed to
supposed
make
to
you
feel,
uncomfortable.
yeah, timeless. Like it's supposed to feel like
Yeah,
this is less music and this is more like an
an
experience.
experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's always something that you should be shooting for, especially now as NITHEFUL has a full lineup, or at least a lineup of multiple members. And y'all are now like probably crawling closer and closer to getting some live presence,
Oh,
in which,
we're getting the equipment as we speak.
yeah,
We're gonna be getting also a shirt printer, like just so we can
right.
do it ourselves. We got this pretty much like we have a
Cats in
plan
the
for pretty
bag.
much, yeah, the cat's in the bag pretty much.
Yeah. And that's
Um
always good.
yeah, because I always think it's better to like, I wanted to be like kind of on a label, but then I was like, it's kind of more fun to just be independent and like, start your
Yeah.
own thing. It's like what Downtune Productions really is. Like Nick is a fucking genius of a
Mhm.
musician. I don't know, like he took music theory, I think when he was 13 or something like that, and he just like figured out like what works with everything. And that's like
Yeah.
why when you listen to the whole thing, it's like it's never boring. Like it makes you feel like shit is, progressively getting worse in a good way.
Yeah. And I will say too, I'm sure you've had an opportunity to check out the front to back session I did for the album, and I did realize something. I realized that I was like talking about how I wish there was more melody in the album, but in reality, the only reason that I couldn't hear the melody is because of these Skull Candy Crushers, man. Literally, they are
Uh,
mobile subwoofers, so the double blast pedals and everything else going on, I couldn't hear fucking any of the guitar melody, bro. It was ridiculous, but um
Dude, I don't blame
it's
you.
great. It's great. You
But
guys are making
there
history.
is definitely more melody on there. Like I added, if you notice, I added a lot of Travis Ryan influence on there.
Yes.
Like, yeah. And
No, it's
Malkovich, like with Father Fetisai, there's definitely like Malkovich influence on there. Cause I wanted to, like I love creepy waltz things. Like I,
yeah,
I think
yeah.
like I think adding that to like deathcore is just so like unique because you're kind of just like doing that when you listen to it.
Exactly, bro. Also, now that I understand who you're talking about, it's pronounced makhluk.
Oh,
Yeah. The V is
uh,
a U.
uh, uh, okay.
But I got you,
Sorry,
bro.
Mark Luke.
You're good. And his real name is Agung, and that's usually how I call him because the project is Makhluk. His state
Okay.
name is Dunia Lane, and that's
I
hidden
always
legend
called
for
it
the
Malkovich.
underlord.
Wow.
Makovic. That does sound like a Florida man thing, bro. He's like, welcome to the stage, Malkovic. Like, absolutely, bro.
That's how you
No, it's
know
great.
I'm just full like American.
Nah, man, you're just like you're now getting associated with these projects, and that's completely cool. Shout out to Makluk and Agung. Absolutely amazing music. Your most recent track was really cool. But as we actually dive into session, like, we got the back of the book summary, which is a different perspective on who God is.
Yeah, like it's
And
basically showing, I think the best example of how God is compared to this album is definitely Dark Matter 2525.
okay.
He kind of like adds like a cartoonish God with a little angel baby and like uses Bible verses and stuff, but like kind of adds like cartoony stuff because he's
Yeah.
like all like, he's like, oh, Jeffrey, I kind of want to flood the earth today. And then Jeffrey's like, what the fuck, God? Why do you want to flood the earth? It's just like, oh, I'm bored. It's like it's pretty like hilarious. So like, if you ever like into like anti-religious cartoons, definitely like check them out.
Absolutely, man. Dude, yo, like I just thought about this too before we like dive into the track by track shit. Y'all should do some Has Been Hotel / Hell of a Boss merch someday. I don't know if you're familiar with what that is, but
Yeah,
I think that could be really fucking fun for you.
Yeah,
But
I have kind of some ideas for the merch, and like part of if you saw for the first our first merch,
yeah,
it's like people always say that we're like super serious and stuff, but our first merch is literally like Veggie Tales.
yeah, Veggie Tales, Mr.
Yeah, it's Veggie
Pickles.
Tales with like Mr. Pickles, uh, like the Veggie Tales here, Bible Man. If
Yeah,
you know who
that's so
Bible
fucking
Man
funny.
is, that's how you know you've been through religious trauma.
Yeah, for real. Oh my God, Bible Man.
It's like
So
an evil,
deep
it's like an
fried.
evil Bible man. Like it just like, and then like the logo itself is in Veggie Tales because it's just kind of like, we're a super dark band, but we also can just like laugh about ourselves too. It's like, like what's more like anti-religious than using Veggie Tales
Right.
as like.
No, dude,
Like,
just using Christian cartoons in your merch, like there's an intense irony to it. But
yeah, like it's kind of just saying like, I mean, it's true though. Like,
yeah, it works. Oh my God, it's great. So I mean, really, we've already covered track 1, the Book of Divinity. Just like talking about the context of the creation of God and that being the Bible.
Kind of. I'm gonna like read the lyrics to you.
Right.
So basically, the first part is every time I listen to this song, I picture a bunch of knights from the Crusades.
Right. That's what you're talking
and they're
about.
trying to like please like their like king or whatever, who's like pissed about like people worshiping different gods and stuff and not worshiping God. So basically, I'll read the lyrics to you.
Okay.
So, obey to the Father in the sky. Manipulation forever, one cannot deny. Sacrament, testament, the will of the lie. Indoctrinated influence since birth. My slaves, the puppets of this earth. The only purpose of creation is death.
Yeah.
So then we're built. So then this is when the knights are kind of talking. So that's like God talking to them.
Right. Okay.
So we're built on flesh of the dead bodies, made for holy kingdoms to reach the sky of the divine. Savagery bore the horns, soak thine holy sword through the blood of the poor. It's basically saying that the royalty of the church just wants to murder anyone who's poor, which is honestly kind of relatable today.
Yeah.
And then God, the symbol of creation and control. Control. So then with this part, I always picture them going into this town and like right before they like pillage, murder everyone, they say, "We are not worthy by his light, unless all the towns who deny, obey, worship, serve the lie." And then this is where it gets really fucked up. So basically they killed everyone. Okay. Like everyone's dead besides this one child, super devoted to God, but they think that he needs to be free. So then you read the lyrics, "Lord Jesus, help me with this sword by pillaging a town, and hang thine child by thy neck, for he needs to enter into the golden gates to be free." To be free is to be a slave. We must pillage for the Lord. We must pillage, ravage. Then this is where it talks about how, they burn the town after everyone's dead. So burn all the history that remains forever. The king takes the throne eternally, enslaving you all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep.
No, that's a pretty. I remember too. My mic, Jesus. I remember back in December too when you mentioned you were talking about this track and a little bit at least how the album just starts out with knights and shit and just basically what is the Anglo-Saxons and their eternal campaign for plundering and just bounty and all the shit that caused so many other people around the world pain and suffering, including the Vikings, like the Israelites, the Jews, like absolutely everybody suffered because of like the Anglo-Saxons and their pillaging and their campaigns in the name of God. So I think that's a great way to start off the album.
That is the most brutal thing like that it's like ever happened, because it just kind of shows, and you could even like compare it to like how even with Christopher Columbus, like, murdering indigenous people, you could like compare that to that too, because like, like it's pretty much, I wanted to be relatable, but also like have like a sense of where if someone who's dealt with like, religious trauma and shit, they like are reading this kind of like, oh, they are the fucked up ones, not me. And that's kind of like I'm reading it like it's basically like it. An evangelical could read this regularly, and it would sound the same.
Exactly.
Kind of how I'm going with these lyrics.
Right. And it's like, especially the way you write it, it's like The Witch or something, how they spoke in that basically just ancient Latin. And for the most part, even though, for example, in The Witch, great movie, need to watch that again soon. Like these are a devoted Christian family. These are devoted Anglo-Saxons, but nonetheless, they've been exiled. So they're brainwashed into thinking that no matter how bad things get, if they plead, if they beg for mercy in the name of God, that eventually things will turn around. And well, for those who have watched The Witch, that's not what happens. So it's like some things just in the name of God, especially by his will, for the most part, are pretty cruel. And then the moment someone is lucky, they're like, "Praise be to God, praise be to Christ." I'm like, no, dude, you're out of your mind. You're actually manically insane if you think that anything good in your life is happening because of God. He's a piece of shit. And that's basically what I love so much about this album is for the first time, that could easily be a way of describing this album is just in your face, dude, wake the fuck up. God's a piece of shit, dude. Like, I love it.
And then kind of it goes to like everything that, Christians try to be like, oh, like, it's not like this, he's, love and omnibenevolent, but with the tyrant,
Yes.
I basically talk about that too. Where is it?
Which killer fucking feature, and we still need to get the Stygian complex on the Anatomy podcast someday.
Dude, he is good as fuck. Like, if you ever seen him live, he fucking kills it.
I mean, if I happen to live out here longer or move over to North Carolina, then yeah, I'm most likely will be seeing them live. But until further notice, I might have to move back to Arizona next spring. So that'll be fun. But
Always. But yeah, basically, this is where I talk about how I say he is, God, like, it's very philosophical. So let me like quote you on a quote that kind of just pretty much, and I forgot to mention at the end of Book Divinity, I really forgot to mention this. Is basically what this verse entails, because they people that believe in God, they always say like, oh, he can't create evil. But in Isaiah 45:7, King James Version, it says, like, at the end of the Book of Divinity, God is speaking, I form the light and create darkness. I make peace and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. And it basically implicates that God isn't good, pure good. He said he created evil. And that pretty much just shows that because he's omnipresent, omnibenevolent, omni this, and it just shows that he knew everything that was going to happen. And he was a pure good God. Death wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Murder wouldn't exist. He created the devil to just rebel, and he knew he was going to rebel. And it's just like shows that he is just the puppeteer of everything. And it just shows that, like, it's literally just based around fear. And I touch on all these subjects that a lot of, Bible studies Christians don't even like to talk about. It's just, because they always say, oh, you need God in your life. But it's like, why is little Timmy, who gave his God to life, his life, dying from cancer? Like, that makes no sense. He's like 5 years old, and what, he didn't pray enough? Like, just
it's so twisted, man. Like how easily people will pass shit like that off. And I did have a question. I think this will be a very important question going into the rest of the session, really. When we talk about the Bible in the context of what will be the creation of God, the Book of Divinity, everything that's on this album, are we also talking about the very first edition of the Bible, or does this entail the King James version, the forged versions of the Bible?
It entails pretty much like everything that's in there, like the basic of the Bible, like, but it talks about like the one you're really like, what really shocks people is Jepthah. And that's kind of why I had that as a title, just because right when you look it up, it's so fucked up that you're just going to be like, what the fuck?
Yeah, naturally.
That's why I didn't include Isaiah, because Isaiah, with that, like, he talks to God, and then he's like, oh, goes to sacrifice his, son or whatever. That's fucked up. But the reason why I included Jepthah is you'll see.
Because of the story that we will be telling later in session. But
yeah,
kind of getting back to the tyrant, is there a specific tyrant in mind, or is God the tyrant? Because that's always been a hashtag for NITHEFUL. So
God is the tyrant.
Right.
Basically saying that he is like, I'll read the lyrics to you right now.
Mm.
I am the omnipresent. I am everlasting and all-knowing. I am born of many names given to me by my children of great unknowing. I am Yahweh. I am the bringer of floods, and I am reason for the plague. I am the Alpha across Omicron and Omega. And then it says, I will all bow down to my negligence. Bow. So I'm going very like biblical how God speaks.
Yes.
So then it's kind of like this, where the keeper of your misguided faith, God of illusion. And then I said, let me read right. So basically, I added this one quote that really describes how like it just doesn't make sense. So in Psalms 94:9, basically it says, he that planted the ear shall not hear, he that formed the eye that shall not see. Basically saying that he created this, so he that made the ear shall not hear. So basically saying that you cannot hear, but he can. Basically saying that you cannot speak, you cannot see unless you follow me. Mm-hmm. So he who brings despair, God shall not fear.
Mm-hmm.
So then it goes, puppet of heretic, you are bounded and hindered and bounded by biblical mistakes. To get Kyler's lyrics real quick. But basically talks about with Kyler's lyrics is that he's like a deceptive demon king,
mm-hmm.
all bound to my negligence, then following is the Tower of Babel. Babel being the city, the tower that was built by man, and God basically destroyed it because he did not want anyone to visit heaven. Mm. Yes, that's the real story. Mm-hmm. And then that's kind of like that whole story is like a mix of things where it's basically the reason why people don't speak the same language. It's so confusing.
Yeah. Lots of lore. Lots of fucking God catered lore.
Just wait till we get to incestual infamy. That one is
woo! That's a doozy.
That one's gonna be oof. So then I was like, I'm by my hands. I also flooded the earth, all with a passing glance. Then your dependency is sickening. How he thinks his creation is just sick, but he loves it. Bow to me, the God of tyranny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and God, the Tyrant has to be one of my favorite tracks on the record. So good.
I was originally going to call it Yahweh the Tyrant, but I feel like kind of having just what is the Tyrant is kind of it has that like mystery to it, and like right. Even the people that like aren't for the theme or whatever, they mm-hmm. can just listen to it and be like, oh, it's just talking about a king, and it's actually just talking about their God that they know that they worship or whatever.
Yeah, it's like no, there's a lot more context to that.
Yeah, and like I don't care. Like one thing I want to tell people, like I don't care if you're a Christian and you listen to this. Mm-hmm. I just like only band that really cared about like Christians liking their music and were mad about it was Asking Alexandria.
Really?
No joke. Yeah, they got mad that like dude, it was they were in an edge phase, like because they made Morte Dabo, so they were like, no Christians are allowed in my venue, and I was even for me, that was just like, bro,
cringy.
Like, yeah, no, because I kind of honestly want Christians to like listen to this because it kind of gives like a different perspective because you're always told like, oh, God is good, God is this. this is like a different perspective, and like that's why with Paradisium is to like kind of make you, like, maybe Satan from Paradisium kind of does have a point to why he rebelled, and that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like it's a prequel to the EP, basically.
Yeah, which is always great. And I do love that, like, over time, since the beginning, really, you've had that narrative in mind and you've had that timeline concreted instead of being like, this is gonna be a prequel, question mark? Like, it's always good to have a plan.
I'm an overthinker, and like if you check my phone with like how many concepts I have and like lyrics I have written, you're gonna be like, what? So
more like this dude's prepared, bro.
Like, dude, because like one of my like biggest, I guess, like what I really worry about is being on writer's block, because that shit is like, I don't want myself, it's not me, people being disappointed, I don't want myself disappointed, and that's kind of like why I overthink like a lot of this stuff for this album and like future stuff to come, is because like this is like an art piece for me that I want to like be remembered for like a while. Like I don't want it just to be like
timeless,
like, oh, like how much clout we gonna get next month.
Like who fucking cares about that? It's just the fact that you were there and that you did it, what I mean?
No, like I treat this as more of like a audio horror book, and that's kind of what I'm going with it.
Right. So we have the tyrant, and that more or less talks directly about God and how he ultimately is God, the tyrant. And that's been a hashtag since really the beginning, or at least not the beginning. I don't know if you've been doing God the tyrant as a hashtag since the beginning, but like since I've been thoroughly associated with you guys and I've been aware of NITHEFUL as a project, like it's always been God is a tyrant, God is a tyrant, the creation of God. And like that's that's in the description of every single one of my videos now, because I'm like, yes, NITHEFUL. Like
it's basically just saying that, instead of just like, because so many anti-religious bands, especially in the 80s, they were just like, oh, we got to be so evil. Oh, let's do all this. Let's do that. For me, it's like, I'm not evil. They are. That's basically what we're trying to say. And for some people, that like really confuses them, because they're like even people that commented on my stuff, they're like, oh, is this what you believe? I'm like, no, this is like showing, that the other side is evil, not me. And that's basically what I'm kind of getting at.
Right.
This is more for people who definitely like creationists who deny evolution for the Bible.
Oh my God.
This is kind of just showing them that, you guys are so obsessed with denying evolution, but you haven't read your own book. Why is it that a Satanist knows more about your book than you? It's like
that's a clap back, bro.
Like it's basically what I'm trying to say, is that like I don't believe in any of this, but you guys do. You guys take this stuff seriously. I believe in myself as my own God, and that's like, for me, that like, honestly, that is the reason why this album's so satanic, is because I'm my own God on this album.
Right, exactly. So with the next track, we have Drowned Creation featuring the legend Adam Warren from Oceano.
Fucking sick.
What do we got going on lyrically with this track, man?
So we all know the story of the flood. Noah's Ark, the flood. So let me just, like, everyone has been taught this story as a kid. They say like, oh, all the animals, 2 of the animals got saved, and everything, but they don't talk about, like, what about all the animals, all the children, all the people who literally just didn't do anything, so they all had to die because God screwed up? Like, basically saying, from the Bible, Genesis 6:9, now the earth was corrupt in God's sight and was full of violence. He created violence. God saw how corrupt the earth had become, for all the people had corrupted their ways. So God said to Noah, I'm going to put an end to all people. He didn't say disappear, like, when you're taught as a kid. I'm going to put an end to all people, for the earth is filled with violence because of them. I'm going to surely destroy both of them and the earth. Basically, he flooded the earth for his own selfish pleasure, because he knew this was going to happen, and basically said, 7 days from now, I will send rain on earth for 40 days and 40 nights. I will wipe from the face of the earth every living creature I have made. So God basically is genocidal. So let me ask you this. Say a father, okay? Say a father drowned his child, wife, and animal all in a bathtub. Would that be acceptable?
No.
If he said, I'm sorry because they were corrupt?
Sorry, they were messed up. I'm a little messed up. They're
so
messed
that's
up.
basically what I'm trying to say, is that with this song, that he is pure evil for literally doing that.
Yeah. And I gotta tell you, man, like, I did not even know, like, because I don't read the Bible. Fuck no, I don't. I don't waste my time, melt my brain, make myself want to drool reading that shit.
Bible study with Mr. Unholy Cannoli.
Yeah, exactly. So we got Mr. Unholy Cannoli over here to do it for us, which is great. And that's really like why I love this album so much. But because like you researched this shit. You dissected the Bible, bro. But Noah's Ark, like, I did not know that God's intention with that story was to flood the entire earth and kill people en masse. Like, you watch shit like Evan Almighty, and you're like, oh, he just broke open a dam and they had to maneuver around a massive body of water. No, like, there's more to the story, apparently. And even I, until this point, until right now, had no idea that his intention was to just flood the entire earth and just wipe out all of his creation. Like, that's
all because they're corrupted, but he made them corrupted. So
he made them corrupt.
Yeah, like, he created the corruption. And like, that's basically what I'm trying to say, is that this album is to show that, this song especially is like the start. It's the start of its genocide. It gets so much worse.
Right. And I mean, obviously, you had the legendary Adam Warren from Oceana feature on this track. And there's a great handful of various vocalists on this album, on this Goliath, that kind of helped push the album forward. But at least for Drowned Creation, what was the reason that you ended up choosing Adam Warren?
We saw that he is really great with promotion. He's really amazing to work with. He didn't see us as just this, another local band. Like, he actually called us, gave us like ideas on like how we're gonna, like, he's gonna promote it and everything. He even did it for his Twitch, constantly just like said, yo, check out NITHEFUL, check out NITHEFUL.
Yeah.
We did this all for only like $1,500. And top of that, I'm to let you on a secret, He's gonna be in the music video when we do a music video for this song.
Awesome. No, that's
Yeah.
really cool.
No, he's very awesome to work with. If you deathcore bands, I'm talking to you right now. If you want to work with a known vocalist, work with Adam Warren. He is the best thing for this scene. 100%.
Huh. Well, that's really cool. And to hear about like his sense of enthusiasm and authenticity and stuff, like
Yeah, no,
Oceano's been
like
around for a long time.
he listened to it at first and he was like, and like, like with Sacramentum, it was like because it was just getting slower and slower, but he listened to like the Flood and he was like he had to like do so many takes because he felt like I want to give it my all for this because
Yeah.
he's like nah, I could do better. Like he was showing his full vocal flex for this, and that's kind of like what when we get a known vocalist on this stuff, if you cannot flex like you're like what you can do, we're gonna be very disappointed because we want you to because this is, I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of like a flex band, but it's getting more like showing the different notions of what we can do, but in like a more like mature way.
Yeah, with a lot less angst and just like because we can't. It's like no, it's because we have a story to tell and we haven't.
Yeah, no, like it's a story to tell, but it's also like vocally, it's definitely like you gotta flex. Like that's just
exactly. And people will be jealous, people will be haters, but it's because they're not in your shoes. Instead, they're
I've been doing this for a while, and like overall, what really inspired me 100% was Infinite Annihilator's Egg. And when I heard that, like all the horror elements, it really made me go like, what is deathcore capable of?
Yeah.
And it's like I really wish there kind of were more bands kind of like us, because it's like it shows that people were more about wanting to write a story with like a book and everything, and instead of just releasing something to get Spotify listeners. I'm just like, I want to change that, dude. Like I want to really like show people what deathcore is like capable of, and that's kind of like with this album really trying to show that.
Right.
But I'll read you the lyrics for this. So, sin is a disease. I, the Lord God, highest of thee, displeased to why they are not worshiping me, when I gave them everything to be, indoctrinated, flesh-bound slaves, sentenced to divine tragedy. Commence the slaughter, all life shall drown as their screams for mercy make not a sound. Walls of rain come hailing down, unheard prayers denied, as the preacher speaks forth an oath to my mass genocide. The sin-filled masses echo soaked in self-enveloped blasphemian. Nod to Infinite Annihilator.
Yeah.
Then I have to get Adam's part, but basically he talks about how it, he just says the water comes hailing down, speak not a sound, and basically saying, that the flood is going to be the worst thing ever. That's basically what his part is about. Like, that the worst is about to come. So then the flood happened, and then as the seventh day strikes, I unroll lethal vengeance for blood, a wrathful intercession. I reclaim the gift created by my hand. Extermination, decimation of the unholy land, as the water pulls, starving every breathing soul. Oxygen.
Yeah, which is like so intense, and it just it when you read it how you read it, the lyricist himself, like it really does show the intensity, the intention that is in this music and that it is in these songs. And it's literally
definitely what helped me, like, honestly, a lot with what made this, like, the lyrics and the like the vocal pattern's so intense is definitely, doing horror narration. Like I realized like what to add for like the softer parts to make it sound intense but scary.
Yeah.
And then for the fucking heavy parts to go more like, like just shit like that. And it's like, I definitely, also another thing I recommend for new deathcore bands is definitely listen to more horror movie tracks.
Yes.
And like, step away, like still listen to heavy music. I still love heavy music. But if you're wanting to come up with new things, just like even look at, like, you don't even have to do what I do. I'm just into noise and all that stuff. But look at like a known band that is exact opposite of us, Polyphia. They listen to like rap music, and they added rap and pop music to their sound. And it's like, you just got to add a different genre to like this stuff to kind of create this giant heavy thing that you want.
Exactly. You got to be able to reach out to different music genres to distinguish your music more.
Yeah, and I don't know if you noticed, but when I'm like going through these lyrics, it's kind of like a hint of like a little bit of like just a hint of a rap in there.
Right.
It's just how the vocal patterns are set up. Is it's not like everything that is just deathcore. It's like a mix of things. Yeah. And like we know actually Dylan Becker, who he helped write the Egg with Dickie, and he kind of like because him and Nick are friends. Nick learned a lot from him, and basically like we kind of like jumbled, like came up with like the lyrics together. So like I came up with the concepts in the lyrics, but like Nick kind of like helped complete them.
Yes. Sweet. So that's Drown Creation. Then we have track 4, which is actually the track that you sent over to me, which I'm absolutely honored to have had a demo sent over early on. That was a really cool opportunity. This is Incestual Infamy. Nah, you guys are not ready for the creation of God. Let's go. What is this song about, bud?
Ugh. All right. I'll read you the story. So basically, the two angels, all right, Genesis 19. Two angels arrived at Sodom and evening was sitting at the gateway of the city. So basically, this is like the part with the angels. Do not be afraid. Talked about how the angels have, I talked about how the angels are biblically accurate. So they have like 1,000 eyes or whatever. When he saw them meet up and bowed down to the face of his ground, my Lord said, "Please turn aside to your servant's house. So you could wash your feet, spend the night early morning." "No," they answered, "we will spend the night in square." But his sisters so squarely they entered his house, prepared a meal for them, baking bread. So then basically they called Lot, where the men came from the night. Basically, bottom line is that in the city of Sodom and Gomorrah, everyone in the town wants to bang these angels or whatever. So then, like, Lot went outside, shut the door, but no, my friends, do not do this wicked thing. And he's like, "Oh, look, I have two daughters who have never slept with a man. Let them bring them out to you. You can do what you like with them." Basically, he's like trading the fucking, like, his daughters for the angels because the town wants to bang the angels. So then Lot's like, "Oh, you can have my daughters instead." So then he's like, "Get out of your way. This fellow came before dinner, but worse." So Lot went out and spoke to his sons and pledged to marry his daughters. Hurry and get out of this place. So then basically God's pissed, like he always is, and so he destroys the town, and Lot's with his wife or whatever. Two men said, "Do you have anyone else, your sons' daughters? Get them out of here, because we're going to destroy this place." The outcry to the Lord against his people. With the coming dawn, the angels saying, "Hurry, take your wives and daughters who are here." When he hesitated, the men grasped his hands. Daughters led them safely out of the city. The Lord was merciful to them. As soon as they brought them out, Lord said, "Flee for your lives. Don't look back and don't stop anywhere." So then what happens is Lot's wife becomes a pillar of salt. So then it gets so much weirder. Then the Lord rained down burning sulfur on Sodom and Gomorrah from the Lord of the heavens. Thus he overthrew the cities, entire plain, destroying all the cities. But this is where Lot's wife looked back, and she became a pillar of salt. Early the next morning, Abraham returned, stood before the Lord. He looked down before Sodom and Gomorrah. He saw rising from the smoke land. So when God destroyed the cities, he remembered Abraham. This is when it gets really weird. So basically, Lot and his daughters left Zoar, and he and his two daughters lived in a cave. One day, the older daughter said to the younger, "Our father is old. There is no man around here to give us children. As the custom of all the earth, let's get our father to drink wine and then sleep with him and preserve our family line through our father." That night, they got their father, drank wine, and the older daughter went and slept with him. He was not aware of it when she lay down and when she got up. The next day, the older daughter said, "Last night I slept with my father. Let's get him to drink wine again. And you go and sleep, and we can preserve our family through our father." So they got their father to drink wine that night. And the young daughter also slept with him again. Again, he was not aware of it. So both of Lot's daughters became pregnant by their father. Their older daughter had a son. She named him Moab. He is the father of the Moabites today. The younger daughter also had a son, and she named him Ammoni, and the father of the Ammonites of today.
If that ain't a fucking Pornhub script, I don't know what is.
Basically, the song is about how at the very end, with the creepy part, is basically when God is like happy that Lot, Lot and his two daughters are like starting anew by impregnating like themselves. It's such a fucked up story, and it's like what's so funny is that it's taught to children, and I don't know how you can even like they talk about Sodom and Gomorrah, but they don't talk about they like try to like I don't even know how you can make it kid friendly. That's insane.
They had to make a very difficult decision in the name of God, kids. Okay.
Like this is why I'm a dick about this stuff, because like you have these Christian metal bands
Yeah. Oh my
who
God. So
literally will talk about how great God is and everything, and then you have me who's like literally using an actual Bible story, and they're just like, what? Like you
what?
can't do
How
that.
dare
Like,
ye? How dare he? Like
yeah, they always
context?
say it's out of context. I'm just like, what's the context in that? That basically the context is that if your shit gets destroyed, I guess you have sex with each other.
If everything is lost, create a new family line within your own blood. I
Because
quote God.
yep, God's like, yo, so you need to basically just impregnate each other, and then we could start a new family line, because I was pissed at that town for trying to have sex with my angels. So you gotta like restart anew.
So strange, man. I've never heard of that. And again, this is something that a amateur doesn't really go to church that much, Christian household, like definitely a lot of context were left out. A lot of stories were
Definitely
left
like,
out.
to kind of like ask them about this, because like there's a lot that just does not make sense, and they'll just be like, oh, it's out of context. Like,
Yeah,
what's the
no,
context in that?
no,
But
like,
I'll read you the lyrics
all right.
exactly for this, because yeah, but that's just the story of it.
And if anything, I'll definitely be having you send me some like articles and shit for all these stories. That way we can put the context of that down below and like put the links
Yeah,
for that down
no,
below.
like, because like I said, a lot of people when they don't even like understand, because it's kind of like subtle, but it's not.
Right.
So it basically says, do not be afraid of the angelic power of hideous divinity. As the thousand eyes gaze upon you, feel the scorch of sin. Your hopelessness consumes thee from within. You shall perish, for your lustful ways have doomed you. My wrath, everlasting deathly storms above punishment shall reign. So basically, that's when he's like mad and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The only gift I, the Creator, shall bestow is the mouths of fire burnt to smoldering the ash of town of Gomorrah. Corrupted girls, filthy whores, sodomy to the depraved maidens. The angels were ripped, and I tore. I rejoice in my abolation. Defiled by inebriated blood, incestual infamy. So the song title. Forsaken from the heavens above. And this is kind of where the creepy part happens. For I, the judgment and overseer, not the hand of murderer. So he says, I'm not the hand of murder, but he is. I dare not touch such disgusting creatures, a holy incestual act upon my creations. The filthy deviants bring upon a new age of holy depravity, defiled, tainted, dragged to hell.
Lit. For lack of a better word.
Yeah. Like it's definitely like something that I like, funny enough, before NITHEFUL, I wanted to kind of like have a band where it would disguise itself as a Christian band, and I was gonna call it Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right.
But it has all Old Testament lyrics. So people would just be like, what the fuck?
They would get really caught off guard if the band
Like
was
you
Sodom
think
and
of like
Gomorrah.
you think of like Christian metal, like you think of like Filey, it's like I can feel you, and not like fuck you, you will die, my wrath, everlasting deathly storm. So that's kind of when I joke around with people. They're just like, Christian metal, isn't like this or whatever. Like I'm like, yeah, it is, and they're kind of like, just what with me? And I'm like, hey,
Like a fucking South Park moment.
Like,
Right
because
there.
I technically just tell people, like, yeah, this is a Christian album. They're just like, what? Like, yeah, no, it is. And, it's still satanic, but more of like, kind of shows like Paradisium's like the hell, hell and
Yeah.
creation God's more like heaven.
Right.
But
Exactly.
it shows, yeah, like, but like with Paradisium, it's more like, Satan's wrath against God, and like I constantly say, oh, he's a tyrant, he's this, but it's like this is like why Satan is pissed. Like, God is a fucking piece of shit, and you should like think like that, not more like, it's kind of like given this whole like very like what I wanted with this band is more like a lot of people don't know how to do Satanism right in metal. Like I love Mayhem, but they don't do it right. Like I'm just fucking saying.
Yeah. There you go.
Like especially how Euronymous like kind of just shat on LaVey. I was just like, what? Like,
yeah.
I feel like bands that do it right, I don't like them, but Ghost. I don't like Ghost at all, but I'll give them props. I think they do Satanism right. Twin Temple, Satanic, and Zeal Nador. I guess Deicide kind of.
Deicide, is Deicide satanic?
Yeah. I would say they are.
Huh? No, I had no idea. I don't really listen to them. I've never really listened to them before.
I guess, ma'am. I'd have to look into their lyrics more, but
yeah,
for me, satanic isn't just evil. Like, no, it's like for me, it's more like, is this based actually like around Satanism in some sort of way? Like, is it something that a Satanist could read and be like, I relate to this?
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of what I'm getting at it with it. It's like because it's showing that. Like when you read it as like an anti-religious person or Satanist, you're kind of like, yeah, make them look bad, yeah, instead of like, yeah, this is so evil, yeah, I'm evil. Like I don't fuck with that.
Right? No, that's just like that's more or less the beginning of getting into the vibe and like just wanting to rebel. But then that's just taking it to an extreme when you're like, yeah, I love being evil. It's like, dude, you're fucking 12. And you listen to Black Veil Brides, like chill out.
Yeah, like that's kind of like for me, it's definitely more of like a personal thing. Kind of basically with this band, I kind of wanted to be like the like one deathcore band to be like, yes, this is satanic, but why is it bad and evil if it's satanic? It's more or less just showing why it is satanic, because it's literally directly opposing God, but in like a new way. You know what I'm saying?
Right. In a more educated, more mature way, instead of just doing it for the sake of doing it.
It's like a philosophical way that like you could read this in like anyone who's been through like religious trauma or something like that would be like, I love this, because it's just literally showing that the people that constantly try to say they're pure good are actually the most fucked and evil. Yeah. And that's kind of what I'm getting with this album. So then we get to
the 10 Pestilences of Egypt, which is a pretty big collaboration, my guy.
10 Pestilences of Egypt.
Yeah. This is actually so I'll talk about the vocalist first.
Right.
So we are in this group called Downtune Productions. Nick made all the bands. And there is Aberrant Abomination, there's Holy Oracle. We even got Cody Garcia because he's homies with us. We basically just got like a bunch of random people because like we got a bunch of people before, but unfortunately, like for some reason they like flaked on us, and we were just kind of like thinking like, should we put this on the album? And we had enough time to, so we just were like, all right, let's just go ahead and do it. And it turned out really well, and I'm really happy for it because basically it was kind of the same month that the vocalist of Low Life died, so it's kind of like a homage to him a little bit.
Right. Caleb
like,
Brom.
Yeah. That sucks, dude. I was very sad about that.
No, we all were, man. That was rough. Like, especially because he had been fighting that for as long as he had, and then
yeah, he's such a chill dude too. Like, it was crazy. But he brought upon a new thing for the scene, which is like get a bunch of random fucking deathcore vocalists on a song, and it's like that he started all that, and that's kind of like wasn't really originally like it is technically homage to him, but it's like it's definitely like what started it, of course, Infant, but they kind of brought the 10 vocalists on that.
Yes, exactly. So we have like at least 3 of the vocalists on the lineup right here. So this really is 10 different vocalists on the track.
Let me check if it's actually 10.
Because I definitely did not know that, but that would make sense because like most of the time in the song,
that's what I was going for.
But
but each plague is a vocalist. That's because like there's different plagues, and I'm gonna get to the story a little bit. But Brian, he's my roommate. Very good dude. He's always been supportive of us, and like that's kind of why I wanted him on there. Dylan Scudda, he's always been supportive too. He's on, he's been on this, he's the Aberrant, huge fan of us. And, we basically like, just kind of like, we're in the Downtune group, and we're just like, yeah, let's go ahead and do this. Ethan, he's still chill, but, we still have like our differences or whatever. Like, I was like iffy about having him on here because of, his religion or whatever, but it's whatever. Like he just kind of was like, I was like, if you're on this, just give me like a little Hail Satan. And he just kind of like it was like Hail Satan. I was like, okay, I'll take it, bro, whatever. And then we got the dude from Jordan Foster. Jordan, he's from Holy Oracle, all Nick's bands. So basically it's kind of just like a down-tuned song. Yeah, it's like all the down-tuned vocalists. And then we got Dylan Becker. We got him because he's in this band called Animal Farm.
Oh, right.
We saw with one of the plagues, it's about the death of the cattle.
Yes.
And so basically we had him on that part. And how he writes, dude, is just incredible, bro. Like that man will like literally just create like the most fast, like like it's so good. And he like uses all these big words and stuff, and you can definitely hear that he definitely like started the whole was an influence for because him and Dickie basically like wrote the Egg, and it's really crazy.
Okay,
I didn't know if you knew that or not.
No, and to be honest, I'm not familiar with like the Animal Farm or any of those projects. Like I am, but like I haven't listened to the songs. So
Yeah.
with that, I
So
feel bad. But
basically, this story is with like Moses and everything. So God's purpose in sending the 10 plagues upon Egypt was to convince Pharaoh to set the Hebrews free and allow them to worship God.
Mhm.
So, he's Moses like, oh, let my people go or whatever. And
Or
then,
whatever.
unfortunately, like Pharaoh didn't let the Hebrews free and go. So then they suffered the devastation of the 10 plagues.
Mhm.
So this is when, of course, God was pissed.
Yeah.
So even though he knows, but we're not, we get that already.
Yeah.
So blood. So first of the plagues is blood. This is what Dylan's gotta. So thus, Lord, by this you will know that I am the Lord. Behold, I will strike the water that is the river and Nile. Oh wait, this one's, we kind of changed it up a bit because we thought the plague of frogs was stupid.
Just like have someone do a Kermit impression on the fucking feature.
Like we just thought that was just so ridiculous that you could not even make that sound metal.
I will bring a horde of brothers with me. You will fear God.
Yeah, bro. Like we were just like, what? Plague of frogs? Like
Mhm.
it makes no sense, dude. Like what were they? So basically, Cody did blood. But I'm gonna go through the plagues. Basically like this. So, thus the Lord, by this I know that I'm the Lord. I will strike water, the Nile, the staff that is my hand, it will be turned to blood. The fish that in the Nile will die, and the Nile will become foul, and the Egyptians will find difficulty in drinking from the river of the Nile. So that's when he's like, basically, the whole water in the Nile turns to blood.
Which also, people, if you haven't seen DreamWorks, The Prince of Egypt, this is actually, like, except for the frogs, apparently. That's a good movie to watch if you're curious on like what basically.
I mean, they probably include the frogs there.
They do. Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And that was like growing up when I was still pretty Christian, like Prince of Egypt and Moses and all those other fucking DreamWorks films. Like we did watch those a couple times. And I remember thinking, I'm like, why is God killing all the firstborns of all these people? Like, what's the point in that?
It just
he's
gets
angry.
So
I'm like,
much worse as like you read into it, and you're just kind of like, it gives you a really different perspective, and that's kind of what I'm going for. Is like, we're always told, especially in the 80s, when like the Christians were like, oh my God, metal is so evil. Oh, Dungeons and Dragons is so evil. Then you read their book, and it literally talks about murdering the firstborn of Egypt.
Mm-hmm.
Like
the firstborn of every family in Egypt. Yeah, it's. I'm like, what's going on here, man? Why is that a thing?
Like it's kind of just a big kind of fuck you to them for constantly like saying metal is evil and everything else is evil. Oh, like even on nowadays with TikTok, there's this one dude who literally will just be like, Jesus is coming back because there's this show on Hulu that talks about the Antichrist. I'm like, bro, come on.
Yeah, seriously. Like,
but
yeah, I think that would be, would that not be a pretty good way to quickly summarize what is a song with so many features? Is just, it's the 10 pestilences of Egypt. It's what happened to Egypt and the pharaohs when they refused to release the Hebrews, and this is also something that's have you seen the Prince of Egypt? DreamWorks, the Prince of Egypt?
No, but I know about the story. It's definitely been taught in Bible studies, Bible schools and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Luckily I was not, I didn't go to like Christian school.
Right.
But what made it like suck for me is like, I told my parents, I was like, I don't believe in God. They're like, oh, take you to therapy then.
Fuck.
So it kind of really gave me a bad taste in my mouth. And I was just like, even talking to like the nice ones, I'm just kind of like, and I'm reading their own book for themselves.
It makes your skin crawl trying to justify like what you believe in compared to what
like,
they believe in.
How do you justify this? And it's just
Mhm.
like, and that's like what I'm trying to get at is, it makes you think. It's like an album that if you read the lyrics
Mhm.
and it makes you think, but if you're
Yeah.
just like listening to it without the lyrics, it's probably just like fucking, I don't know, noise.
Yeah, seriously. Like you gotta
But like,
fine tune your brain to
yeah,
understand
yeah,
what's
no,
going
like,
on.
I love reading and stuff, and I feel
Mhm.
like if the lyrics are bad to me, it's like it loses points for me. Like, I don't
Yes.
care how good the song is if the lyrics have the words "you suck," you stink. Like, I don't like it. It just,
Stanky. Yeah, it's great. I
yeah.
love that.
There's been a band, I'm not gonna say who, that has used those lyrics, but yeah.
All right. Well, with track 6, we have Jepthah the Devoted. And this is like something that you were waiting for earlier in the session.
Yeah.
We've also
So-
talked about this before too on the Anatomy podcast, but
So
let's dive head first, man.
Jepthah. So we all know the story. Jepthah. So we all know the story of, the book of Isaac, where it talks about how the Christians are like, oh, he didn't actually sacrifice his son, so he's a good God. Well,
there's one moment here.
Jepthah was the Gilead. So Judges 11. He was a Gilead warrior. His father was Gilead. His mother was a prostitute. Gilead's wife was Boar's sons when they grown up. You're not going to get any inheritance of our family, he said, because you are the son of another woman. So sometime later, when the Ammonites were fighting against Israel, the elders of Gilead went from Jepthah to the land of the Tob. They said, be our commander so we could fight the Ammonites. So basically, Jepthah answered, so suppose you take me back to fight the Ammonites, the Lord gives them to me. Will I really be your head? The elders of the Gilead replied, the Lord is our witness. We will certainly do as you say. So Jepthah went through the elders of the Gilead with the people, made the commander, and repeated all his words. Jepthah sent the messengers to the Ammonite king. What do you have against me? Let me basically just talk about the part where... So basically what happens in this story is, then the Lord came to Jepthah across and Jepthah made a vow. If you give me the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites, I will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. So then Jepthah went over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord basically gave him to his hands. He devastated 20. So basically he won the battle. So then when Jepthah returned to his home, we should meet him, but his daughter dancing the sound of the trembles. His daughter comes out of the door. She was only a child, except he had neither son nor daughter. When he saw her, he tore his clothes and cried, "Oh no, my daughter, you have brought me down and I'm devastated. I made a vow to the Lord that I cannot break." "My father," she replied, "you have given your word to the Lord. Do to me as you just promised, and now that the Lord has avenged your enemies to the Ammonites, but grant me this one request," she said. "Give me 2 months to roam the hills and sleep with my friends, because I will never marry." "You may go," he said, and let her go for months. She said her friends went to the hill. He swept and she would never marry. After 2 months, she returned her father to the vow. He did as he vowed, and basically he sacrificed her to God.
Oh, so this is not the foreskin story?
No, the foreskin story is after this. This one is basically, this one is so fucked. It just, you can't justify it. So Jepthah appears in the book of Judges. According to Judges, he lived in Gilead, his father named. So basically, bottom line, it literally says it. Jepthah sacrifices for his daughter, stands contract. So basically, this is where he actually sacrifices his daughter to God.
Like kills her.
Yeah.
Huh. That's weird. That's so strange.
Yeah.
And why did he end up killing her?
Because he told God that if whoever emerges from the doors, a burnt offering in rejoice. So basically, he helped them win the battle, but he saw that his daughter would come out of the doors, and basically he sacrificed to her. And God was like, "Thank you."
You're a good old tee-hee. Okay, interesting. Wow.
Yeah, this story really just changes your whole perspective on shit, because you're always told, "Oh, Satanists do that, Satanists do that," and then you hear this and you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I didn't even when I read this shit, I was just like, how do you justify this?
You don't. That's how you do it.
It's so fucked. It just does not make sense. But with how the song is, there's actually, because a lot of people say that, oh, we don't use solos. There's really 3 solos before each breakdown. If you notice, because a lot of people say oh, they're not technical enough, and then that's the one song we did literally 3 solos before each breakdown. And the end is where the very ending, where it's you will be eternal sacrifice to heaven. Nick basically tuned it low while we have a pedal that makes it lower, and then basically it just it literally sounds like the string is flopping. It's so dope.
All right. Well, I mean, that's Jepthah the Devoted. So, Father Feticide. I know that this one is more or less about Roe versus Wade being overturned, correct? Yeah. So what else do we got going on with this song other than that? Or is it kind of just a fuck you to Christians for overturning it? Fuck the lack of separation.
The only way, the only way that because basically I say in the first part, I kind of changed it a little bit, but it's like for Numbers 31:7, as said, now therefore kill every male among the little ones, kill every woman who, by lying with him. But like it's not exactly like that. But all the women and children that have not known by lying with him, keep ourselves alive for ourselves. So then I say, this is where you'll notice like the Roe v. Wade part is in. I say, hail to the new Christian theocracy.
Right.
Basically implicating that this is what, like, God is so against abortion, but he also loves to dash baby. He's against abortion because he does not want a woman to like make any like do anything unless it's like permission from him. So basically it talks about how he loves to just see babies come out and then just murder them himself. Right. That's what basically it says, in the beginning, I, the creator, hath engulfed the source of blinding light, a once and all null creator of all the righteous form of perfection. I, thine father of the cherub, the leviathan of incense, an abominable forbearance grips me, the penalty with no exodius, no heavenly afterlife, prodigal, pestilent prophecy spoken unto me, the death of procreation, unclean spawns of impurities, and sin unworthy to experience my paradise, only to cast flame and damnation. The flesh neutering the unformed bodies in utero into carcasses, deform the meat and bones, for I must witness the glorious sight of them being dashed, dragged, and ripped upon the edge of stone. Basically homage to that one verse I told you about. Slaughter the lamb who's conceived by an act of lust, saying that if you are lustful, you deserve to die. Of perjury to me, all the ungodly swine, I writ in disgust for every forsaken woman guilty of this atrocity. For atrocity will have the fruits of their looms, wretched newborns torn, mangled, and mutilated, cut from her womb. Hear my sermon. Feel shame burning that of 1,000 sons you shall bathe in the fetal remains, rotting a pile of death, says I, the Laban. And then the horrid stench replaces oxygen for the repentance, useless filth, and waste my failed creations.
Nice. Yeah. And just like most of your horror narration content, like very in-depth, very descriptive, very like detailed and stuff. But I think that's just the way to go. And like, good God, I still remember when that happened. And if there's anything that we all agreed upon in this house, it's that like, yeah, we are heading into some darker times if they've just overturned the right, the opportunity in most states, including Tennessee, to do a clean, healthy, safe abortion. Like that's twisted, man. Like where are we going in life?
We already saw a 10-year-old child.
Yes, exactly. Like what the fuck,
dude? Be pregnated, and they couldn't take the child out because God's will. Like, this shit needs to be touched on, because it's just like, it shows that they're fucked up. Like
it's not okay.
Anything that God does is it's okay in their eyes.
Yeah,
so it's just
they're really brainwashed.
Yeah, it kind of shows that how fucking far they want to go, and it's just like, I live in reality. I'm not like pretending like everything's perfect and stuff, and like women literally have lost the right to an abortion, and people don't realize how like fucked up that actually is. Like, it's something that we've had since the 70s, and it's like the fact it's in the name of like religion and God and everything, it just shows how like it shows. And then they actually don't read their own book, and then you just read it, and just the fact the same book is being taught to kids as we speak right now is just so appalling. Like, and it's they like think that, oh, we're pure good and everything, and then it's just like they do the most fucked up shit possible.
Yeah, it's not okay. And hopefully, because I've been seeing articles the last couple years on just people in general being more willing to convert over to being pagan instead of like any genre, any form of Western monotheism. And I'm like, cool, sweet. More people are waking up to the reality that Western monotheism and all these different subdivisions of religion is not the way to go, especially if you actually read the source material per se. Like it's not okay.
And a lot of people like critique me for like never including like the Quran or like the Torah, and I'm just like, it's because I was not brought up in that. So maybe if I was like brought up in that, I would probably have done the same thing. But it's kind of like, because I've been brought up in like a Western, Christian society, especially like the fact that it's just everywhere. Christians even have their own genre of music. Like it's just everywhere. Like they literally, they're the reason for a lot of things, and it's just like it's something that I think really needs to be touched upon, because like half of them haven't read their own book. Half of them really just kind of use it for control. And the people that like, actually look into it, they're like, oh, that's out of context or whatever. And you're arguing with them. There's literally a pro like talking about slaves beating your master. Like there's so much screwed up stuff in there. And I think that's why I made a deathcore album based around it, because it's just like the fact that, God is the most evil one of them all. And I'm not saying that I believed in him. Thought the name, the creation of God. Basically saying man created God. It's not a fact. I mean, it's not an opinion. It is a fact. And that's basically what I'm trying to say with this. You might not like it, but you don't have to listen to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Or you can listen to it and just ignore the lyrics.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So next track we have Preputium Avarice II. What is going on with this lyrically?
Here we go.
Here we go.
Bible story. This one, you're just going to be like, what? So, I actually included a Bible verse from it at the end to implicate how fucked up it is. But bottom line, basically, David, okay, he sees King Saul's wives, okay, his daughters, not his wives, his daughters. And King Saul basically is like, well, David is like, oh, I really love your daughters are beautiful. I'd love to make them as wives. And so then King Saul is kind of just like, all right, you can make them as wives, but you have to bring me back 100 Philistine foreskins.
Yeah, no, this is the foreskin story then.
So basically, David goes, cuts off all the foreskins of the Philistines, and he basically is so happy about doing it that he brings back King Saul 200 foreskins, not 100, fucking 200. So then King Saul's like, "Thank you so much," and so then he gets his daughter. And here's the verse to prove it. Samuel 18:27. David took his men with him and went out and killed 200 Philistines and brought back their foreskins. They counted out the full number to the king so that David might become the king's son-in-law. Then Saul gave him his daughter Michal in marriage.
We love to see it.
And it's pretty much just talking about that whole story, and saying that, I'm talking about how fucked up it is. Like,
Yeah.
all wants the 200 Philistine foreskins. No, he wants 100, but then David goes and does it. That's pretty much what you need to know about that story. Pull up the lyrics.
Next track, it's a lot of Roman numerals, man.
Yeah, that's actually like a Bible verse. It is for the story about the two bears.
Two bears?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So basically, it's Roman numerals for 2 Kings 23:24.
Oh.
So basically, this is about the story where Elisha, he's a bald prophet, and he basically went to Bethel. He was just walking around, okay? And I'll read the Bible verse to you. From there, Elijah went up to Bethel. As he was walking along the road, some boys came out of the town and cheered at him. This is why at the end of the track, I don't know if you remember, but you're probably wondering, like, what does that "get up, bald head, you fucking bald head" mean at the end, correct? Mm-hmm. So basically, these kids go, "Get out here, Baldy." They said, "Get out here, Baldy." He turned around and looked at them, called a curse on them in the name of the Lord. Then 2 bears came out of the woods and mauled 42 of the boys.
Okay.
That's what that story's about.
Huh. That's wild. So this like, he was a prophet, and he, do you think it was something like he had a connection with God, or do you think it was just a random tragedy?
Fucking know. It's just this, like, and it's just such a random story that it just, and then they're like, out of context. Like, what is the context of that? Like, so I'm gonna read the lyrics to you. So this is the unearthed. We actually, for this song, we had a vocal contest. And we got James Cole on this song because we had a known vocalist who wanted to be on this song.
Mm-hmm.
And people were like messaging us, you got to get the known guy. And we were like, why? And he's just like, he would like help you in the scene or whatever. And we got him to be second. But I don't know, he kind of just flaked on us or whatever. He's probably mad that we didn't get him to be first. But we were just like kind of like, we saw this one guy. We saw him in a black craft hoodie, headed up, and he had this like mic, okay, like a fucking, it's the weirdest type of mic, but he like was like looked like he was breathing on it, and he like was holding it like this, and he was standing up, and he was just acting so fucking evil, like, and he had the most evil fucking vocals, and we were just like, that guy. And we just like, and then we found out, funny enough, he's in this like just normal like bad rock band, and we're just like, wow, that's funny. And like it just kind of proves our point that just because, you know, you're not known doesn't mean like that we can't, you know, get you as a feature. That's basically what we're trying to like prove with this, like with this band, that you know, we wanted to get like the most nasty like vocalist to like just prove everyone wrong, because everyone's just like used to the typical Will Ramos, Alex Terrible, Dickie Allen. Like we wanted to get like just him because like he won the vocal contest, and he's fucking nasty. Like he did a really good job with this, and that's kind of why he won.
There you go. No, that's really cool. And what is his band name?
It's called James Cole IV. I don't know. He's like doing rap stuff now, but yeah, he just proved like everyone wrong. Like that's why we like let him on this track, because he just like, he's good. Like, and he was just did that out of nowhere, and we were like, what the fuck? And he just like did that whole like, I was just like, fuck, bro. Like, like made it look like he was breathing on the mic, and like had that whole creature looking shit. And I was like, that's what I fucking want, dude. I don't want this typical like, you know, like, oh, look how much clout I have type of people. Like, I'm so sick of that, dude. Like, I do this because I love it. I don't care for, you know, like, yeah, you know, making money is cool or whatever, but it's like, I do this because I love this shit, and it's fun to do. I had fun writing this album. It was a really good time, and it's just kind of like that, you know, I want to see it more as like that instead of like how it is now, you know, because that's unfortunately. It's unfortunately how it is. It's like, oh, you're not on a label. You know, like I'm really, but that's kind of what I'm trying to go for. But so where we were at? Oh,
yeah, we were kind of like wrapped up with that Roman numeral track about, well, basically, like you wonder if Disney got the plot of Brave from that, and they're like, you know what, let's just crank it all the way down, that way we can actually make this into a film. And they're like, bears, magical bears, Ireland, Brave. There we go.
The plot of Brave. That's the plot of Brave.
Oh, I mean, well, let's see. I like when I say cranked down, like they cranked down the violence a lot, and you know, it isn't like a let's see, there is a curse that turns the main characters into bears, and they have to figure out how to undo it, because this witch just like, like the witch is just like, fuck you, like you try to break into my store. So like,
I had no idea. That's funny.
No, like it's
that fucking fucked up.
And like, I mean, nothing really bad happens, but like the father loses a leg, and there's also a demon bear named Mordu who's like secretly also, well, you know what? I'm gonna stop talking, that way you can enjoy the film. Like it's nothing like that, but more or less just like bears, curse, holy stuff. Like, haha, what if that's where the Brave plot came from?
That would be fucking hilarious.
That would be hilarious, is what that would be. So next track, and we only, like, after this, people, we only have 3 more tracks to do, and like it's been a ride so far, just all the storytelling going on. But we have the King of Sin.
Someone take their fucking pot of boiling water off the stove. Come on.
Featuring both Beyond Deviation and Nihilist, bro. Like, what a killer combination. Just tea kettles all around.
Like, this one, we got basically both of them because we saw that, because this is when Fred was in Beyond Deviation still.
Oh, okay.
So we basically just kind of like had both of them on. We paid for Guy. He was like $100 or whatever. And from there on, we just like, we had Fred as like the first part, and then the second part was Guy. So basically, it worked really well because it was kind of like, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh. Hold on 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah.
Freaking Brian. No, I'm kidding.
No, it's all good. But yeah, this song is basically like, I'm gonna read the lyrics to you. I don't know if you ever heard of Satanic.
No, you mentioned him earlier in session though.
He's like a satanic rapper, and basically he
Oh.
talked on this subject. How what really stuck with me is that since God created like sin and everything, like, why would he created, like, what are the 7 deadly sins? Okay, let's real quick. So we have lust,
Okay.
gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, and pride. So he kind of like said this one thing that really like struck with me. So I'm going to read you just the end. Jesus was a sinner, a man that lied, called himself the King of Kings, but I call that pride. You're not allowed to worship others. I call that greed. We'd feel his wrath if we did, so I call that envy. God is a glutton, since he said he created all. He gives us genitalia steaming from his lustful thoughts. And now I have just proved the king of man, and now his head should be placed on the crown of sin. So that's kind of where I got that like inspiration from. Basically saying that, he's the king of sin because he created sin.
He created sin. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to read you the lyrics for this one. So this is the lashing. You shall be cast into the rivers of purity. Wickedness stains the soul, bleach the stains of sin. Wallow in a moral existence. I, the harvester of untarnished entities, I, the immortal king, reign in the dawn of damnation. Expiration in the vital holy kin, bleeding out for your sin. All are unworthy to gaze upon me. For the sight of what burn intensely of the pestilent waste, do not speak my name, the imprint of the unwanted inheritance of casting shame, all bound down to thy father, thy king. The disciples of the demise, the captor of creation, never-ending damnation, the book controls life. Now by the hand from which you're made, none shall all suffer, all rot in my name. Then basically I say how my desire is to cast you filthy waste into the eternal flames, everlasting, for I am the authority. Basically saying that, he wants to send you to hell, and that everyone goes to hell because there is no one that is righteous enough to go to heaven. Because if you think about it, what is the unforgivable sin?
Let's see. I think unforgivable sin for me could be like treachery, betrayal.
No, it's blasphemy against the Lord.
Oh, right.
So basically, you could murder anyone, do the worst despicable things, but if you still love God in all your heart, you get to go to heaven.
Mm-hmm.
But for the atheist who thinks critically and just isn't about like giving his mind to that a tyrannical piece of shit God, he burns forever in hell.
Yeah.
Basically saying eternal servitude for set fire to my creation, for I, the true king of sin. So basically, bathe in the screams of the burning eternal sinners, smoldering ashes, the flesh is black and cleansing rain, the insanity within pain, my reign begins. I am God, the almighty creator. Then this is actually a verse without the fucking part. I've not come to bring peace, but only a fucking sword. So basically, this is literally word from the New Testament, not from the Old Testament, because, you know, the religious people like to always say, oh, it's from the New Testament, but
Yeah.
So this is literally what Jesus said, told his disciples quite plainly. He did not come to bring peace, but rather a sword. Matthew 10:34-35. So then I shall take, let he use without sin, let him cast that first fucking stone among you. And I don't know if you, when you listen to this, but there's like huge Cradle of Filth influence in this song.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, like I use that whole like deep kind of Danny Filth voice, like it's a creature, not the vital holy kid. Like
Yeah, I remember that the first time listening through. Okay, cool.
Yeah, there's like huge Cradle influence. That's what I love about this band, is that you never know where we're gonna go. We could have a waltz, we could have a Cradle of Filth part, or we could just go so slow that it just sounds like noise.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I mean, obviously with the King of Sin, like I think we can all tell why you decided to get both Guy and Fred on this track, but just for the sake of asking it, why? Like, why did you choose the both of them?
We basically just wanted to like see how we wanted beyond the full Beyond Deviation on this track. And we wanted to like basically, like we always do, we wanted to like see how far they could flex.
Right.
And Guy did so fucking perfect at that ending, dude. Like basically the ending is where you basically like you guys' screams are basically you screaming like as you're burning in hell. So it's like his fucking whistle is basically like the sound of what hell is supposed to sound like. And that's basically what we were going for there.
Sweet. Yeah, I think that worked out pretty well, because I like, whether it be Fred or Guy, that's one of my goals, is to learn how to tea kettle and then learn how to do the shit that Orphan/Strangled, or Orphan formerly Strangled, does on their shit. Just like the absolute, just you're getting your back ripped open by a kitchen knife type of screams.
Yeah,
like, what
dude,
the fuck, bro?
That's the main reason why I love like deathcore so much. Like a lot of people are so sick of like Tunnel Throat and stuff like that, but I really appreciate it, because it really shows how far the human voice can go. Like,
Yeah, with training, with devotion and all that shit. It's an art form. It truly
it
is.
really is, like, and it kind of just shows that we have beat Machine. Like we can still beat like Machine, and like it is fucking really mind-blowing that like we used to think Phil Bozeman was the craziest of the craziest, but then like you hear the whistles, you hear the Dickie Allen snarls and like all
Yeah.
that shit. And it just like shows how far like human evolution can like go. Like what were we sounding like this like before we were fully evolved? Like it's so many questions that like we have to answer. Like, and that's kind of what I really appreciate about it, is that it gives such an intense, horrifying sound that a lot of people I really like, you know, appreciate more. And it's like, you know, it is like, despite the popularity from like, Laura and, you know, like people just joke around with them, it kind of gives me like a little sense of hope that, you know, like people are appreciating this music instead of like, you know, what it used to be like
What it
4
used
years
to be.
ago.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty crazy that, you know, Lorna Shore is like up there with like as a popular band. Like it you know, it's crazy because like, you know, we used to never think that this music would, and it's like this kind of what I appreciate about them, even though, you know, people joke around like Lorna Bore, Lorna the, you know,
people
is,
also like to be elitist in the wake
Yeah.
of them actually becoming popular and getting to the level in the music world that they are, and it's
like
so cringy.
I kind of joke around with it, like you know, oh, Lorna versus NITHEFUL, but it's like I don't really have any beef against them, and like I have seen them live, and they do kill it live every time. So it's like
confirmed.
I can't really like say shit either. Like I've seen them live with Tom, CJ, and Will, and it's been like really good.
No, that's awesome, and not a lot of people can say that either. Just being that involved in the scene for that long,
I've
like
seen them
not a lot of
probably,
people can say that.
like I've been around in the scene for a while, dude. Like I've seen, like I said, the whole like Legends thing and everything.
Yeah,
But
and everybody be sure to go check out that podcast episode if you haven't already, because we talked about so much in that episode alone.
I talk a lot, dude. I'm not.
It works, man. It works, and it creates a longer upload, so I'm okay with it, bro.
Yeah. All right. But then it talks about pelted to death with the stones, tormented as I watch from my throne. Bones shatter and bodies deform, burning in pain, dying in God's vein, drowning in the rivers of Nile, perish in the lakes of fire. This is my dream desire, gazing upon Sheol, sending all the innocent to sulfur, filled the finite resting place. Angels of the holy, send the unbaptized to rot. So then actually Guy and Fred layered at God Loves to Watch You Fucking Suffer. I don't know if you knew that or not.
No, but now I do.
Yeah, they layered on each other before that, but then Guy did the very end. So then Guy just said the words forever, eternal torment, unheard prayers, hell. So
yeah.
This is definitely like a song that a lot of people I've really liked. A lot of people like The Tyrant too. Personally, my favorite is definitely the next one.
Yeah, this next one is a wild card, man. Like this what's really cool though is unlike the other tracks, unlike the other 12 tracks on this record, this is fictional. This is like absolutely
this is fictional. It kind of is, like I said on my TikTok, it's like what I expect the biblical God to do, because there is actually a verse kind of related to that. Let me see.
And see, now we're learning more shit. We're learning that there is something that could have alluded to that. And
so Leviticus 26:29, you will eat the flesh of your sons and the flesh of your daughters. That kind of like relates to that a little bit, but not fully. So mother of flesh. This one, basically is kind of like I told you about that 6-hour album Everywhere at the End of Time. Yeah. So basically this is kind of like a shortened version of that, but without the dementia part, because that whole album is basically, to me, the darkest twisted album I've ever heard in my life. Like, if you ever listen to that, that is like, that will basically, like, the whole album is to basically make you feel like you have dementia. Like, I'm not kidding. 6 hours, and it basically like plays this song like it's like a 40s track or whatever, and it plays it over and over again, but then as it progressively you hear it, it gets more fucked up, and then you're just kind of like, I remember that song but I don't. And that's kind of what I'm getting through here, is basically, you know, the whole like the Ave Maria track, like that playing in the background. So basically that is in Virgin Mary's mind, okay? And she's basically singing that in her mind, but as it progressively, the song progresses, it gets more and more fucked up. So then at the very end, as she's getting like eaten alive and they get to baby Jesus or whatever, like it basically, her fucking brain cells is dead. And basically she's just singing like, oh, Ave Maria. Yeah. It's so fucked up.
When people think of Ave Maria these days, they're just gonna think of the Batman, just like, what'd you do? Ave Maria. Smacks the glass, bro.
I forgot about that. Fuck. But yeah, like that's just basically what I was going for that. So I'll read the lyrics for you.
Okay.
Upon this tomb lies the shredded carcass, disemboweled to hold the town's meal. The first lady hath birthed the wretched spawn, the incarnate of evil. Northern star in the moon of night, concealed the birth son of might. The sacramentum has begun, the incestual celebration for the holy kin, to taste the pain of the children defleshed. Hail to Mary, the mother of flesh, the creator of death and disease, obsession of killing worthless mothers and stoning unbaptized babies. Remember the protrusion, the Holy Ghost delusion. Embrace the scowl, by gnashing the whore of God we feast. She is pure of beauty, her skin so supple, the tradition of wine and bread. Give us this, O deity of love, so we can never be dead. Just remember the protrusion, the Holy Ghost delusion. As the pure servants of God all gather for the ceremony, the priest of nuns in today, all preaching this testimony, basically saying that they love to be slaves. And that's what, you know, basically this song is about. The brothers and sisters in the manger all celebrate Virgin Mary's death. The purpose, this is technically a Christmas song.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas.
You could technically say that, yeah.
That's fucking funny, bro.
So then this is a lyric that I think a lot of people will like relate to. The purpose of this divine day is for the child, Jesus, to make humans thinking that they are not slaves by putting his future self entombed within a flesh grave, by embracing fear of the benevolent God. Remember this day as they dine on her like wine and bread, instilled fear within your head. The mother is dead, distilled in rotten flesh, a whore for the Lord, locked in death within the manger. Nothing is left.
And here's my question then, regarding the lyrics. You mentioned like dining on her as if she was the wine and bread, right? So like, I don't know, like you think back to church, and I definitely was more than familiar with that even if it was just grape juice and
Yeah,
some bread
like,
instead back then.
it's definitely not like full lore, but it's definitely like you'll see how it's like related to that, because they like say
Yeah.
eat the blood of Jesus, eat the
Body of
his
Christ.
flesh, and
Mhm.
and it's just like it's never talked about how fucked up that is.
Yeah, no, it
Like,
isn't.
and then you see like that Bible verse that I talked to you about, and it's kind of like it kind of relates a lot to it, and it's just like, a murderer. This is why these Christians can't say shit, because you pull up the Bible, Leviticus 26, 19, 29 or whatever, and you pull up these like verses. If a murderer reads that, they're gonna be like, and they think that
That's okay.
yeah, that's okay. Like, and they always say like video games are evil, this is evil, and then you pull this up. It's just kind of like, you really can't say shit.
No, you can't. And I've always like, it's funny that even comedians like Chris D'Elia mentioned that. He's like, churches are creepy, bro. Eating the body of Christ and drinking his blood like wine. Like, that's pretty creepy, bro. And then you got all these stained glass people that look like, what the fuck? Or, like you'll, I don't know if you've seen it before. It's really so funny.
It really blows my mind that like it's still like relevant, and like it gives me hope, because I'm noticing a lot of people like aren't really like, believing in it as much anymore, but it's still there a little bit, but it was definitely worse. Like I don't know, like
even just
80s,
10 years ago, bro. Like it was so much worse.
It was so bad. Like Dungeons and Dragons. DC? You think that's evil?
That's some pussy shit, bro. Like I haven't played D&D yet, but that's some pussy shit, bro.
D&D, AC/DC, like Ozzy Osbourne, they're like, oh, dude, Ozzy, if you watch an interview, like people ask you to say it, and she's like, I'm too fucking drunk to fucking I'm too fucking drunk to summon a demon. Like, that's some too much work, man.
Nah, bro. Yeah. Shit's wild.
Like he's like so fucking high. There's just like summon demons. Like, I just like to do drugs.
And I mean, after all, with people like Ozzy Osbourne, you do have to always consider that, like, whether it was a rubber bat or a real bat, like, motherfucker just chewed the head off a bat. Nah, nah, nah. Like, he could have easily started COVID back then, bro. Like, come on.
Yeah.
But,
bro, yeah.
Oh,
now we touch on Sacramentum of Filicide.
Oh, never mind. I like this one a lot.
which I really want to do a vocal cover of someday, but
the lyrics. Dude. I have them saved on my phone, but basically that song. Let's see here. It's basically about how God like put himself in, basically sacrificed himself for his son for his own selfish pleasure.
Right.
And it's basically saying like, the lyrics, like in the name of like let my son be sacrificed.
My son.
Basically talking about how fucked up it is that God would sacrifice his own son for his own selfish pleasure. And then at the very end, with the breakdown, basically talks about like, I demand abuse, I demand rape, I demand war, basically saying that he is all for just everything fucked up, and that he wants to enslave you. And then death shall be a worthy sacrifice. And that's like what the end of the lyrics are. I'm gonna pull them up real quick. It's basically, like the flesh-filled slaves to worship his grave. Basically just saying, I think it's a really what a lot of people like, would notice with the song. It's like this would show that we're not for this. Like, I demand death to all the free thinkers, saying that, God's against science. And then I demand death to my flesh-born son. Basically saying that, he wants the death of his son to enslave humanity. And then, basically it just gets slower and slower. And then basically the song is kind of like a newer version of I don't know if you ever heard of but we bread the buttered toast with butter or whatever. But they have this thing where it's like the slowest breakdown ever. I forgot the song of it, but basically it's kind of like a newer version of that. But with the newest version, we got Kyle of Tactosa. Really great dude to work with. He's actually, funny enough, Tactosa's another Florida band too.
Yes. Yeah, I was curious about that. I'm like, was that just for the sake of some Florida love, or like, what was the creative decision behind that?
It basically was to just it is definitely for like some like Florida love, but overall, like we just wanted to like see how like far we could go. He's very great to work with. And the reason why we had him is just because, like, we all like I said, we all want to like, make it in this scene or whatever. And it's like, it's best to like always get like the not known vocalist. So then maybe like 5 years down the line, like all these dudes will blow up and you'll be like, wow, like, holy fuck. Like, we got from the EP, like Devin Durarte, Xavius, and Taylor Barber, like on our EP. So like,
wait, you got Taylor Barber on the EP?
Yeah, we had him on Satanic Ascension.
Oh, what the fuck, you did?
Yeah.
How did I not notice that?
Yeah, no, we got him because we wanted like kind of a hardcore vocalist to like just do whatever. And he was like, and this is like before he blew up, and we were like, yeah, man, I'd be sick. Like, we just kind of hit him up and he was like, yeah, I'll do it. I was like, cool. So
cool.
Yeah. And now he charges $400, and I'm like, I'm glad we got him before then.
God, we got him early on.
Yeah, no, like it, like, because that's just so great about like this band. It just kind of like shows that, just because you get someone known now doesn't mean that someone unknown won't blow up later.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, that's why I don't like say like, oh, I'm not known or whatever, because like I'm seeing my name around and stuff, and for being like on a not on a label, it's definitely like we're progressing definitely from like and being a band for 2 years and not being on a label, we'll definitely like get
you're going places, bro.
Yeah, especially like when we're not even like done yet. Like, this is just the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. No, and like, I mean, right now, Sacramento of Filicide, the official lyric video, is now at 21,000 views on YouTube on Slam Worldwide, and then your vocal playthrough is actually now at 10,000 views on Slam Worldwide.
Yeah.
Like, dude, shit's blowing up. And
Yeah, no, and I honestly, Slam Worldwide is definitely the like real like it's definitely like the best thing to like for bands now, because like like that's why I never like ignore Slam Worldwide bands, because you never know if there's like a hidden gem in there. Like it's
like not
it,
the
it,
Tactos, huh?
yeah, like there's some great fucking bands on there, and I kind of like
Mhm.
I still like the label bands and stuff. Like
Yeah.
other band that I just jammed the other day was Awaken Providence.
Yes.
That album, like really,
Eternity
I'm
was so
usually
good.
not a fan of clean vocals, but they did that right. It kind of reminded me from Demi Borgers and Sorte Adablo.
Okay.
So that I really like fucked with that. So shout out to Awaken Providence.
Shout out to Awaken Providence, man. I'm
Yeah.
hoping we can get them on the podcast soon, because I really want to talk about eternity with the boys, and we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
No, like I saw Adam actually like some of the posts for NITHEFUL, so like he's definitely like like they're definitely like noticing like us and stuff.
Yeah,
That's
which is
what's so
always
cool
cool.
about like NITHEFUL is like we might not have the reach that these other bands have, but like people tell me like Ian Gray from
Mhm.
Recoil and Horror told me that Suicide Silence knows of NITHEFUL, and that was
Really?
yeah,
That's
like
cool, man.
yeah, like we have like people know of us, and I actually did see someone told me that Lorna actually reposted a thing like regarding NITHEFUL. I forgot what it was, but he showed me that. I was like Austin.
Really?
Austin saw it, and like he like reposted it to like something else, and I was like,
Dude, I gotta tell you, I'm really excited to be seeing them this next Friday, man, because I'm flying out to Arizona for my 23rd to be with my family and it's like some of my friends back in Arizona. But first night I fly in, man, sold out show. I'm gonna be attending the Mesa, Arizona date for the Lorna Shore show. Like every date period on the tour is sold out. I'm so excited. Like it's gonna be great, but it's also really cool to be hearing that NITHEFUL's getting recognized by some of the OGs in the scene,
dude,
Like,
yeah,
that's cool.
no, like people know of us, and like they know like what we're capable of, and like they're like, fuck.
Yeah. But as we prepare to wrap up what will be the lengthy but worthy Under the Skin session for the creation of God, the last track that we have on this hour and 14-minute record is Sacrilegious Suicide. What lyrically concludes the creation of God, my friend?
So this one's definitely going to be the most controversial.
Okay.
But basically it says that if you're you believe in God or whatever, like in your religion, basically talks about how you basically killed your own mind, and it's like, why not just go there? This is basically God saying that he's so like he's basically saying that I will forever reign, and it, I'm gonna just say it, like it's basically just like saying, if you're so like religious, then heaven's so great, why not just go there? That's basically what this fucking thing is saying. Like, why not
Right.
just that's why it's called sacrilegious suicide, basically saying if you're religious, you basically killed yourself. Basically, you killed your own mind.
Yeah.
So I'm going to read the lyrics to you.
Okay.
Speak not of malcontents. Thou shalt not use thy name in vain. 10 commandments carved in stone, set of rules for you you must atone. This path is built for failures to crawl underneath me, I upon my throne. I, the harvester of perfect souls, seek to reclaim. Upon death you shall be judged, shamed, humiliated. Relive your worst moments forcefully while I watch you plead. As I cast you into the flames, forsaken children to die, worthless to my vengeance and wrath horrific and justified. Proclamations, worshippers, suicide, crawl hand in knee, upon scourged earth, bow to me. My tolls of blasphemy, stricken blind, set forth to carry out my dastardly bidding. Suffer a life of pain, cloaked of lessons and battle, sheer pleasure, destructive and deathly. I, God, will eternally reign.
Nice. Yeah.
Basically, yeah, it's basically saying that, that God, he's saying he will eternally reign, and that you are for his slave in heaven. Because when you think of heaven, you think of, like everything perfect and like all that. But really, it's just worshiping him forever and ever. And that's basically just saying that, like how our sigil that is going to come out for merch and shit, better to, like, with the snake eating the lamb, or Satan's snake, and around it has better to reign in hell than serve in heaven, which is actually a quote directed from Paradise Lost and Satan's point of view, basically saying it's better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. And that's basically what we're trying to get at. This whole album, whole concept, that's basically what we're getting at.
Awesome. And that, folks, is, I don't know why my mic keeps doing that. That is a great way to wrap up another Under the Skin session, basically going track by track and analyzing some of the edgiest, some of the heaviest, and for this episode, the heaviest, most anti-religious record of 2022, and probably ever in such a long time, just speaking for Black and deathcore, beatdown, down tempo, really any of those major subgenres that make the heavy counterculture scene what it is. This has been The Creation of God, featuring Derek, also known as Mr. Unholy Cannoli, the vocalist of NITHEFUL. Please do stay tuned. Consider subscribing if you've made it all the way to the end of the session, because this probably is going to be more than 2 hours worth of track by track lyrical analysis, just because of all the other more human conversation that we incorporated into this as a result of our previous and most recent Under the Skin session with Ian from Recoil and Horror, dissecting Amalgam, which is a great album. Probably will be making it to my top 10 just because they have been so authentic in supporting my stuff, and the music is great. It's really a jack of all trades record. But thank you, Derek, for deciding to sit down, rant with me about the atrocities of God. Thank you for deciding, and obviously to the rest of Downtune Productions, Nick, Saia, and the whole team over there, for constructing probably one of the boldest lyrical records to date for this genre. And I think it's going to pave the path for so many bands in the future. And after all, you yourself said this is only the beginning for NITHEFUL. So I can only imagine how the future is going to present itself.
It's going to get, like, we already have plans for, like, the Exorcist album, and it's gonna be intense.
Ooh, no, that sounds really fun, actually. But hope you guys enjoyed, and stay tuned for what will be a future Anatomy podcast session with the rest of the new members of NITHEFUL, including Nick, Saia, Kegan, and David Westberry.
Yep.
So that should be fun. And other than that, buenos noches.
And I got one more thing to say.
Yes, sir.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.